Time is running out to register for the Virtual Applied Ergonomics Conference 2021, taking place March 22nd through the 25th. Don't miss real-world validated solutions from Ergo Cup contestants, breakout sessions, pre-conference workshops, and roundtable and master track sessions, hours of networking across multiple days, and up to 6 hours of CEUs. From keeping your workers safe from COVID-19 to social distancing in industry to managing ergonomics remotely, we have it all. Register now at iise.org/AEC/register.
This is Problem Solved, the IISE podcast, where we talk to industrial and systems engineers about their work, ideas, and solutions.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Problem Solved, the IISE podcast. I'm James Swisher, Director of Continuing Education for IISE, and this episode of the podcast is part of the Problem Solved Career Path series, in which we chat with instructors and students about their experiences in professional development and continuous improvement throughout their careers. Joining us today are Adrienne Dickerson and Elizabeth Ehlman. Welcome, Adrienne and Elizabeth.
Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I can go first. I am Elizabeth Ehlman, and I am an industrial engineer at Kroger currently. And happy to be here.
Great to have you. How about you, Adrienne?
Thanks. I'm glad to be here as well. My name's Adrienne Dickerson. I am an industrial engineer. I'm actually self-employed, but I have a master's in health systems. So most of my career has been applying industrial engineering to the healthcare setting.
Awesome. Well, and that's how you guys met each other, right? Adrienne, you teach one of our great courses, our Intro to IE and Healthcare courses. And Elizabeth, I think you took Adrienne's course. Is that right?
I did. Yep. In April, I believe.
Awesome. Tell us how you enjoyed the course, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I enjoyed the course a lot. So actually by degree, I am a biomedical engineer. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So obviously I've pivoted a little bit right now in my career, but I still love medicine and healthcare and everything about that world. So when I saw, I had a little bit extra time with the pandemic. So when I saw IISE was offering this 3-pack basically of IE healthcare courses. So I went ahead and jumped on it. And the first one was Adrienne's introduction to IE in healthcare. And I really loved it. It was kind of a blending of my two passions right now, so to speak. And kind of from a 10,000 foot view, I really enjoyed how Adrienne taught it. And I could really tell that you, Adrienne, were a subject matter expert. And not only did you, talk the talk, you also walked the walk and had plenty of real world experience to back it up. So I really appreciated that as a student, looking into sort of a possible career path like that in the future.
That's awesome. And is that something you're thinking about, moving from the path that you're in, or you're just exploring what other paths might be interesting?
I mean, I'm very happy with where I am right now, but, always look into the future as well. And like I said, I really do love the healthcare world. So I would like to eventually get back in there, maybe in some way or another. And so this was a really great sort of stepping stone to that possibly.
That's awesome. I'm glad it was beneficial for you and that you enjoyed it. I think it's a great course too. And Adrienne, you worked in healthcare a lot of your career. What's it like to teach or to help introduce folks to healthcare as a career option for IEs?
That's actually one of the things that I enjoy the most about teaching. We take traditional concepts that just have not historically been applied to healthcare, but there's a lot of opportunity there for them. And so the nice thing about teaching is I get to really explore that with people who might not have considered healthcare as a career path. And I think that a lot like Elizabeth, it's a great blending of things for people who are interested in maybe a more personal kind of touch or, more meaningful work. They're not attracted to the more traditional industrial engineering industries. So it can be a really good fit, and it could be good for people who are exploring, a future that's different than what they've been doing. It's something that you can kind of transition to and bring that knowledge. But it's a very unique industry that has its own ins and outs. So I think it's good to kind of know what you're getting into if you head down that road.
Absolutely. And that's not the only course you teach for IISE. You do some other courses. Tell us what it's like as an instructor overall. What do you find most rewarding teaching courses?
Yeah, I have taught several over the years. And I think hopefully one of the silver linings from the pandemic will be this greater accessibility to courses and people being more willing to do online courses. And I think now we have the technology, right, to deliver those a lot better. So I've done primarily lean. I do the lean green belt course pretty often. And then I do a lot of the healthcare specific ones. So if there is a client that, for example, wants on-site training at a healthcare place, I'm one of the instructors that they would typically send there, which obviously has not been happening much for the last year because hospitals are otherwise occupied right now.
That's right.
So that's been a little difference in what I've been doing right now. But
it's definitely a different world, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's really pushed healthcare to the forefront. So I think we'll see a lot of people who might be more interested in these kinds of careers because logistics is a big part of what's happening right now. We're seeing that with both supplies and with the delivery and accessibility of healthcare. So that's really the fun thing about training is when I do lean or intro to healthcare, I have two typical groups that I'm usually dealing with. It's either students who have not been out and working and are just getting introduced to different things they might do with their education, or it's professionals, particularly clinicians. It's very rewarding, I think. Lean and some of those things have been almost more like buzzwords to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes the regulatory agencies will require, PDCA projects and control charts, and you can learn to go through the motions, but it's nice to bring depth and learning to that for people. And I think lean is very approachable, particularly for clinicians who are focused on getting a job done, not necessarily stepping back and analyzing how they do that job and why they do it the way they do. So it's nice to take them through some of those exercises and have them really think about how do different pieces interact and, upstream and downstream and those kinds of concepts that they certainly aren't taught as clinicians.
Right.
But it's very helpful for them in healthcare now, especially as we're trying to do lots more with lots less.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no doubt. Well, and I think you made a great point about logistics as well. So many people probably haven't considered what it takes to distribute, move, store, and otherwise make sure that everything is where it needs to be in the supply chain at the right time in the right place. And Elizabeth, I'm guessing that's a lot of what you do in your current role. Do you see some overlap between what's going on in the healthcare world and maybe some things folks who are supply chain and logistics professionals might have some interest in applying some of that knowledge to healthcare as well?
Oh, absolutely. I recently started at Kroger, and before that, I actually was working, as an industrial engineer with the Postal Service. So that, is supply chain logistics, at its purest. So yes, very much so. There's always a, storage aspect. There's always a, transportation aspect. And it was very interesting in the course to sort of kind of go back and forth because, in some ways, like Adrienne mentioned, healthcare is still a very new, sort of facet that lean is being applied to. So in some cases, I would, find myself thinking, oh, well, we do that every day. This tool could totally be used in, the hospital.
Right.
Or I would find, the hospital has to sometimes look much more granular because of all the regulations that they have. So sometimes they were much better at capturing, details, and it would be like, could totally see that at the processing and distribution plant. So there's very much an aspect of overlap, definitely. And then in my current role, I'm working as a pickup engineer for, the clickless pickup with Kroger. So same thing, lots of overlap, always looking at, storage of once you pick it, how do you store, and just huge increase in volume, much like the hospitals right now, because no one wants to go into the grocery store, and some overlap there with food, groceries. There's refrigerated, there's frozen. So, you can see the parallels to different medicines or supplies that have to be refrigerated or frozen. So yeah, that's one thing I really do love about industrial engineering is how, at its basic, it is universal. It can be applied in any industry and, can be useful in times of, normalcy and times of, crises, definitely.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a really great point. So much of what we do as industrial and systems engineers mirrors, the work is very different, but the concepts are applicable across so many industries. But you're right. It's really fascinating when you think about, what concepts play a larger role in what industry. So it's neat to see both the kind of the similarities and the dissimilarities. So I think it sounds like you've gotten a really good view on that. You mentioned that you've taken, you took the 3-pack of courses over the summer. What drew you to those courses?
So I had taken 2 courses previously with IISE. When I was in grad school at University of Louisville, one of the IE professors brought IISE in to do the 3-day student course for Six Sigma. I took that at the beginning of the fall semester, and then I took the lean one at the end of the spring semester.
Oh, congratulations. So you were both a lean green belt and a Six Sigma green belt?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. It was just a great experience. I, like I said, my degree was biomedical. So this was very much so all new to me, but the professors did such a great job, and I just felt so comfortable and was also just so intrigued by the concepts. And, it's safe to say that was a big reason how I ended up in an IE role in my career right now. And, I'll even tell you, in my job with the Postal Service, I was in a leadership development program. So I had a cohort of about 30 of us who, for the most part, were also just recently graduated. And when they found out I wasn't an industrial engineer by degree, they were shocked because of how comfortable and confident I was with, the terms and the concepts and just how engaged I was in the discussions. And, I can 100% credit, IISE and its courses because that was not anything I learned in my degree work. So I had total confidence.
So great to hear.
Yes. So thank you.
No, thank you. That's wonderful.
But yes, from that, I had total confidence in these courses. And that's why when I think I got the little email about the 3-pack in healthcare, I was like, yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that's so great to hear. Sounds like it probably gave you do you think it gave you a leg up in the job market too, as you were entering the job market?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
The work that IISE does is so important, through the training, because just like all the examples Elizabeth was giving, so much of what engineers, industrial engineers, people like her do, it's not visible always to people from the outside. So I think, the training and just the exposure so that people really understand what's going on in the background, whether it's grocery stores or Disney or the airport or healthcare, there's so much out there that people don't even realize is happening in the background. So I think that's another service that some of these professional organizations and the training are really useful for.
Yeah. And now's a great time to pursue training. A lot of folks have a little bit of time back in their schedule. Maybe they don't have a commute, at least some of the time if they're working from home. And so, if folks have a few hours back in their schedule, I think now's a great time to pursue training. We've definitely seen folks say, I'm going to try to use this time to make the best of this time and maybe take these lemons and make some lemonade.
Yes, definitely.
How about you guys? How have you adapted over the last year? I know it's been a challenging time for everyone. How have the two of you adapted?
Well, for me, it hasn't been a huge change since I've been self-employed. I've been working as a contractor for a consulting group that has clinicians all over the country. So we've been, meeting via Teams and Zoom and things like that. We have had to transition with our healthcare clients. Yeah. A lot of them really had to just go totally offline for some amount of time. And then as they adjusted to the new normal, we were able to start doing some remote consulting. So we've been doing, videos, iPads to go on site, doing our interviews via Zoom. So that's been different for the clients, I think, and an adjustment for them. And then us just figuring out what's the most effective way to do it.
Sure.
And then now as things are really ramping up with the flu season starting, I mean, we've again seen some hospitals just have to back off and kind of shut down from that sort of improvement. But for me, it hasn't been as much of a difference since I was already doing a lot of the work remote. So that's been nice, though, to have access to people who in the past weren't remotely actually.
Right. So I guess that's a little bit of a silver lining, is it broadens your audience a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How about for you, Elizabeth?
Yeah. So when I was with the Postal Service for the first part of the pandemic, I was still going into work because we were essential, services. So that also was not as much of an adjustment for me. And then, I recently took a new position with Kroger, and I am remote now. So that has been a bit of an adjustment. And honestly, it's been a positive adjustment for me so far. I do still get to go into the stores, as needed, but the majority of my work I do remotely, as does the rest of my team. And I think it has improved my communication, even more so, because you're not in person.
That's a great point.
You do have to be very, very strong at your, interpersonal communication. So that has been a bit of a silver lining, I suppose. And then just for me personally, for my work style, it's kind of been a silver lining as well, because I will be, in the thick of work, and then I am just like, I need a break, and I will get up and go, 15 minutes, clean my kitchen or something. It's been a really nice blend of, being on and off, and having that flexibility to sort of go with my personal productivity, how I'm feeling that day, as long as I still get the work done. It's just allowing that flexibility and freedom that I've found very beneficial.
That's a great point, and just finding that balance. It sounds like that there's been some iterative learning there, but
yes,
it sounds like you found it. I guess it's true IEs. We're always iterating toward a continuous improvement solution, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very true.
Pivoting back, thinking about training and education in general, can either of you talk about maybe an instructor who had an impact on your professional journey? I know, Elizabeth, you talked a little bit about your experiences at Louisville. Was there anybody in particular that had an impact on your professional journey?
Yes, there were lots of them. Unfortunately, I can't name them all, but I did think in particular of my two professors who teach this course, a dual partnership, but Dr. Ralston and Dr. Tyler. And they teach the intro engineering classes, in that they do engineering calculus 1, 2, 3, and then differential equations. So everyone in the Speed School of Engineering at U of L have them for multiple semesters. As such, they are sort of iconic at this point, but they are very, very engaged instructors. They really care about their students, and that really helps because they really put you through the ringer with those courses. But it was very valuable, not just purely from the computational mathematics I was doing, but also from, the methodology that they forced us to do, for lack of a better word. But, it kind of all comes back to that communication almost, because they, you had to show your work, you had to show each step, you had to show your methodology. And there's the tendency for students to grumble about that, but it really is so important. And I've only, grown to respect that even more as I've been in my career as opposed to school. Yeah. Because, that you're never going to be operating in a vacuum. You're always going to have to be either, showing your work so that another engineer can validate it, or so that you can collaborate with someone by showing them, what you're thinking, or even teaching someone how, you do something to delegate or, just help with their growth. Dr. Tyler and Dr. Ralston also sort of allowed me to do my on-campus job it was called a supplemental instruction leader. And so once I had taken those courses, I got to be sort of a tutor, I guess, but for large groups for the students in the class behind me for those courses. So a couple times a week, I would be up at the whiteboard doing all, these problems, working through them. And it really helped not only my communication skills, at a mass level, public speaking wise, trying to emulate Dr. Austin and Dr. Tyler, but also just really sort of highlighted my passion for helping other people. I don't know if I'd ever see myself specifically in like a college professor role, but I really do enjoy, helping other people have the light bulb, come off. So it's just really helped me in my growth as both a student and an instructor. So shout out to Dr. Austin and Dr. Tyler.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I like what you said about having the light bulb go off. And that was actually a question I was going to ask Adrienne as an instructor. What are the tools that you use that really help folks have that light bulb go off? Is there a secret sauce that you can share with us?
I don't know if it's a secret sauce, but I think it depends on the student. So again, with the college age students who maybe don't have a lot of real world experience, I find that just a lot of different ways of communicating are the best way to go. So I typically in my lean course, I do a Lego simulation where I have them go through and we basically make cars. So it's sort of a manufacturing facility, and they do it multiple times before and after learning some of the principles and getting to apply them and seeing what that, changes in their, very basic Lego assembly kind of process. And then I also try to have a lot of case studies from different industries, right? So healthcare and manufacturing and things like that. So they can just kind of see how the same tools are applied across different environments. And then for the professional students, what I find is really useful for the professionals is going through some of these case studies and exercises gives them sort of a low stakes ability to learn it and absorb it. But then I try to turn during the class and have them apply it to their actual issues that they have at work right now. So I might say, here's how we go through and we do a flow diagram or a swim lane diagram or a spaghetti diagram, something like that. And then I'll say, now pick something, process from your workplace that you're struggling with, and let's go ahead and map that out, at least at a high level. And that almost kind of kickstarts them when they go back to their organization. I feel like they're taking away something that they can apply immediately. And that seems to really be helpful for students.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I think that's something we strive to do with every course that we have at IISE is make sure that people walk away with something that they can use right away. So we certainly appreciate how you do that. And thanks for sharing that secret sauce. Hopefully we didn't give the store away, but
no, I don't think so.
The secret sauce, the different ways of communication, that actually reminded me of something, Adrienne, with really just having, when you're communicating, if they don't get it the first time, you need to try something else. And that, has, so not only in an instructional perspective, but also just, as an engineer on the job, as an IE, you're constantly working with people, not just, processes and machines. So, I would find myself, if I got the blank stare, talking to an associate, it would be like, okay, how can I explain this a different way? And it's really just, finding what works best for each student or whoever you're talking to, just trying to get them, on the same page with you so that we can both move forward.
That's a great point. And that really dovetails nicely with what you were saying earlier, just about the pandemic forcing us all to be better communicators. So
Absolutely.
whether it's in the classroom or on the job, I think it definitely has stretched or led us to improve our communication skills.
Yes.
Yep. Everybody's living in a different world now, and it'll be interesting to see how it carries forward.
Very much. One of the things that we've seen at the training center is some folks are really tired of Zoom
right.
and really prefer to have courses that are more self-paced and things that they can do on their own. Other folks say, you know what, I value a live instructor. Can you give me an alternative to have a live instructor? And we've been doing a lot of our courses that we used to do in person via what we call live stream, essentially via Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever whatever your favorite platform is. and that's been really unique for folks. I think that's really similar to what you're saying, is that, not everybody learns the same way. So having different courses that are offered in different formats, I think has been really important for us. And that's been a real learning for us, because we've gone from an organization that did almost exclusively live training to an organization that's doing almost exclusively virtual training right now. So that's been a real adaptation for us as well.
Yeah, I think whenever you can get that blend, it is so ideal, because I know personally in the training course I'm taking right now through Kroger, it is at the self-paced, so to speak, which was how, my 3 IE healthcare courses were in the spring. And I really do like that, because like I, mentioned earlier about just kind of, your own motivation and your own,
Right.
learning process throughout the day. It can fluctuate. But I do like also being able to ask an instructor when I have a question,
Yes.
because, rarely do I not have a question about something I'm learning. I think that's the mark of, you truly being engaged. So, I like when I was able to learn the lesson, take the practice quiz, and then I got on the phone with my instructor yesterday and, we talked through it. So I think whenever you can have that blend, like you were saying, between live and, virtual interaction and just purely self-paced, that's, I think that's where all of training and development and sort of all of where industry is sort of going right now.
Sure is.
Just, from how our world is shifting. It's very interesting.
It's a great point. Well, and that's a good segue too into just, what's the importance of training and development in your career journey? Where do you see training and development as you're progressing?
I love training and development. I love learning. So I have a lot of interest, and I will, I think, always be the type of person who is looking at what training and development can I do. And I, as far as my career, I don't see how you can't, look at your training and development unless you want to do the same job for the rest of your life, which is fine if you want to. But, if you're kind of looking for the next challenge or, the next thing that will, really make an impact in the world, then I think you need to be training and developing yourself and seeking out those opportunities when possible. I know right now, like, we've mentioned multiple times in this meeting, logistics and supply chain are so huge right now. So, I am constantly kind of, keeping an eye on that and just sort of making plans, so to speak, like, well, what can I do to better myself in that, so that then I can help solve, those problems of the world.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you just kind of have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, spoken like a true lifelong learner. So.
Yes. Yes, you just have to always adapt, so that you can sort of be the best engineer you can be, I guess.
Absolutely. That's awesome. How about for you, Adrienne? What role does improving your education play in your life?
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to what Elizabeth said. I think one of the things that attracted me to engineering and healthcare was the idea that I would be learning something I wasn't familiar with, not to become the expert in it, but to facilitate the experts, in a way that they weren't familiar with.
Yeah.
And so I like to come in, I like to learn new processes, learn new industries, and work with people who really are the experts in that particular thing, but not necessarily in the way that I can kind of help them look at it in a different way or reframe or restructure and help them improve it. So from that standpoint, I'm kind of always looking for the next interesting thing, even just within healthcare, which I've been doing for a couple of decades now. I mean, I certainly have seen a lot of pieces, but things now are so complex that there's always something new to learn and a new skill that you can pick up. And I can remember when I first started, I would jokingly tell people that I hope to work myself out of a job in healthcare, right? We're all going to need healthcare. I want it to be really good.
Absolutely.
By the time I get there and I need it. And so far that's not seeming to be the case. There seems to be plenty left to improve, but I hope if we get more people and more with this improvement mindset, that's going to kind of change things. And I heard an interesting interview the other day and a quote that really resonated with me. It was Yuval Harari, who has written, he's like an anthropology type professor in Israel. And he wrote a book about sapiens. It's all, the history of mankind and the different, Neanderthals and things like that. But he said, today we are inhabiting the dreams of the people who came before us. And I just thought that was such a fascinating way to look at it. Like what I'm doing now is going to hopefully benefit the people who come after me, my children and their children.
That's awesome.
I think that's what learning is about. We have to learn from what happened before, but then we have to add these skills and think, how are we going to improve what's in front of us? So
absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Wow, that's really profound. And also spoken like a true lifelong learner. So what are you interested in learning next?
I guess from a non-work standpoint, my kids are both studying Spanish in school. They're in elementary school and they're going to be starting that off. And I did a little bit of that years ago before they were born. But now I'm like, okay, I might have to start taking some Spanish so I can catch up and kind of keep up with them.
Did you take it in high school?
I actually studied French through high school and college.
Oh, I did too.
But you might notice that there are not thousands of French-speaking people now living in the United States. So that wasn't maybe the best choice. So I switched maybe 12 years ago. I just did some, there's Kennesaw State is very close to me and they do continuing education for adults. And so I took some evening courses. But then once I had kids, that kind of fell by the wayside. But now that they're in school and there's probably more remote offerings, I'm thinking. So I might look into that again. And then I think from a professional standpoint, I'm really interested, I'm looking for meaningful work always, right? So I think right now, public health, rural healthcare access, those are big needs in the country. So that's something I might, be sort of exploring and looking into for, future opportunities or even volunteer opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah, learning isn't just one thing, is it? You can learn in so many different ways, and volunteering is a great way to learn as well.
There's plenty of things out there that I don't know. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about it for you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, well, I agree with Adrienne. I'm always finding more stuff that I don't know. So there's, endless opportunities. But let's see, for me, in a more immediate technical sense, I would really like to improve my VBA and SQL skills with Excel. Excel is like such a powerful tool. I feel like I'm advertisement for Microsoft, but I cannot get enough of it and all that it can do. So
it is pretty remarkable how powerful it has become.
I agree. So I'm always trying to get better at that. I would also like to sort of strengthen my project management skills. So I don't know if, maybe a PMP certification with the Project Management Institute would be beneficial, or, something along that nature.
Sure.
Just, not only is that beneficial at all times, it, seems particularly relevant right now when not only are there, so many new projects popping up, but we're trying to do them in a remote setting. So you have to be very skilled at handling, the people and processes and just all the goals. So I feel like it could be, beneficial to me and just help me apply my skills more, impactfully in my environment. So those are ones. And then something that Adrienne said sparked to me too, public health is actually something I'm really very interested right now, as I'm sure a lot of people are. But, with the pandemic, I just kind of constantly come back to how are we here? Like, how did this happen? So I would love to, sort of explore what I could possibly do in that field and just try and help, sort of like Adrienne was also saying, just sort of help our future generations not have this situation again. So it's just a fascinating field and just full of so much opportunity to really, make a powerful impact right now and for the future. So those are kind of some of my top interests right now.
Wow. Well, you both have a really long list and a really admirable list of things to learn next. And boy, I'm just in awe of both of you. It's really, really awesome. And as I mentioned before, you both obviously are lifelong learners. So it's always great to talk to people who are interested in learning the next best thing and making that part of their life.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off one more thing Adrienne said, I was just, loving everything, but helping the experts, not to be the expert, but to help the experts, that's sort of resonates with how I like to describe IEs is, making things better. But you always have to follow that with the caveat, not for personal glorification, but just, you're an expert and I'm going to help you, be an even better expert, so to speak, or I'm going to help you take what you know and apply it so that we can all benefit from, your knowledge and skills. So it really is a very cool thing about engineering, and especially industrial engineering, in my opinion, is just really helping make everything better in a magnanimous sort of way.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there's something special about being able to talk to somebody and say, hey, you're the expert in your job. I don't know your job. I will never know your job as well as you know it. But I do have this whole set of tools that you might not be familiar with. And I can help you with those tools, make your job easier, make your life better. And, it's nice. It's nice when people open up, sometimes they're guarded at first, but it's really nice when they open up and realize that you're there to help them and really help make their job better and hopefully their life better.
Agreed.
Well, I think, we've covered so many things, and I think you guys made a fantastic point earlier about as you learn more, it feels like you know less. And I think there's a quote on that, right? The more you learn, the less you know. It really does open your mind to how big the world is. And certainly I'm so impressed with the two of you and how much knowledge you each have. So I really can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk to us today. Any closing thoughts as we're wrapping up today?
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, James, and you too, Adrienne. Thank you for your courses, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's funny to meet since you took an online course, which means it was just a recording of me. But...
Right. Right. I'm very familiar with your voice. So
yeah, right, exactly.
But yeah, I guess my closing thought is just I'm so excited to be here and just kind of from a, overarching viewpoint, what this means. I love this podcast. I love that, everyone is exploring so much training and development right now. I love how much sort of focus there is on innovation and how to make things better. I guess you could say that is another silver lining of the pandemic is forcing everyone to almost take that step back that IEs are constantly doing and just think, all right, what could we be doing better here? Yeah. What can we learn? How can we improve? How can we, keep these defects to, stop in the future? So thank you so much for having me. It's been, a pleasure this morning. So thank you.
Oh, we're really grateful to have you.
And I think I would just add that I really appreciate everything that IISE now does, not just for industrial engineers, but with these trainings that, I've taught people from finance and all kinds of different industries. I think that's really important. And, your predecessor, Larry Aft, it was just sort of a serendipitous meeting that sort of pulled me back into the IISE fold and got me started with training. So I think continuing to look at different ways that this organization can reach out to people and, spread whatever knowledge and training and different offerings, just like you said, deciding what's the most effective way to teach people in this world that it is what it is right now. So, because there's certainly still a need and a demand for it. So I'm just grateful for IISE and everything that they do, both as an instructor and then also as a student of some of their courses.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Problem Solved, the IISE podcast, a production of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers in Metro Atlanta. This podcast is produced by David Brandt, Keith Albertson, and Michael Hughes, and edited by David Brandt. You can listen to all episodes of Problem Solved and learn about sponsorship opportunities by visiting our website, podcast.iise.org. You can also learn more about IISE at the Institute's website, www.iise.org.